The British pound plummeted to an all-time low against the United States dollar early in the morning on Monday, September 26. In fact, the pound dropped to a value of $1.035. This is the lowest that the pound has ever dropped since the British currency switched to the decimal units in 1971. In this video, I'm going to cover why this happened, what the implications of this change are, whether or not this trend is likely to continue, and everything else you need to know about this situation. Make sure that you stay until the end of this video to be provided with a key piece of information that could help you avoid being caught in a disastrous situation. Let's dive in. So what caused the British pound to drop? There are a number of factors that caused the British pound to drop suddenly against the US dollar. Arguably the largest of these factors is that the chief finance minister of the UK government, Karlton, announced that a package of tax cuts worth of $48 billion will be taking place in the UK. This package represents the most significant changes to the UK tax system in over 50 years. Including in this package is a slashing of the top income tax rate of 45%, a cancellation of the cap on banker bonuses, and a reduction of the taxes on home purchases. The new Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss, has promised to make tax cuts during her campaign.
I will deliver a bold plan.
However, the size of her tax cuts and the dramatic changes she and her government are making appear to be causing a bit of shock in the currency markets. Truss's tax cuts will heavily impact the affluent citizens of the UK and will reduce their tax burden significantly. Truss's goals for these tax cuts is to fuel spending and business growth in order to boost the economy of the UK. Ultimately, Truss is hoping that their tax cuts can improve the economy enough to help Great Britain fund public services and pay down its national debt, which is getting quite large. In fact, Britain's national debt is currently around 2.4 trillion pounds, or about 2.63 trillion United States dollars. This represents around 96% of Great Britain's GDP. With the national debt getting so high, it is no wonder that the new Prime Minister is trying to do something to fix this situation. Truss's plans are a complete departure from those of her predecessor, Boris Johnson, who actually increased taxes in the UK last year in order to help pay for pandemic-related spending. But what are the implications of this change? Truss's plans of cutting taxes in order to boost the economy and decrease the deficit in the UK is reminiscent of the trickle-down economics made by popular President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. Trickle-down economics is an economic theory that states that tax breaks and benefits for wealthy individuals and corporations will trickle down to everyone else, helping to improve the economy and reduce the deficit. One person who believes that this strategy will not work is President Joe Biden. In response to Liz Truss's new tax plan for the UK, President Biden tweeted, "I'm sick and tired of trickle-down economics. It has never worked." So would it appear that not everyone is a fan of Truss's new tax plan? Truss has responded to criticism from Biden and others saying that the lower taxes will help the UK to attract investment capital, which will help to generate new jobs. She also claimed that the tax cuts will benefit middle and low-income UK citizens as well, meaning that not only the wealthy will benefit. Bloomberg is predicting that the new changes being implemented by the Truss government in the UK have created a likelihood of 26% that the Great British pound will hit parity with the US dollar, meaning that the US dollar and Great British pounds will be able to be traded at a ratio of 1-to-1. The British government had to increase its spending in order to provide relief for the COVID-19 pandemic. Now it is having to increase spending again in order to subsidize high energy costs, which have been brought on by the war in Ukraine. Prior to the war in Ukraine, the UK got about 4% of its natural gas, 9% of its oil, and 27% of its coal from Russia. But now the UK is phasing out of Russia energy as a response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In order to subsidize high energy costs and other public costs and to make up for the reduction of tax income, the UK is going to have to borrow tens of billions of dollars at high interest rates, at least on a short-term basis. So in other words, Liz Truss and her government have taken a major gamble. They're betting on tax reductions and their own version of trickle-down economics to improve the British economy, which they believe will reduce the deficit while simultaneously making life better for people who are in the UK. However, if Truss and her administration are wrong, then it could cause significantly more financial trouble for the UK right when it is already facing great financial difficulties due to the pandemic and the energy situation. So what will happen out of this? It is very difficult to predict exactly what will happen. This is because we don't know exactly how people in the UK and foreign investors will react to tax cuts and other benefits that Truss and her team are creating. It is quite possible that their plan could work, But considering the fact that Truss faces a general election in about 2 years, if the plan does not work, she could find herself having a very difficult time getting re-elected. There are many other factors here at play also, besides lowering of taxes in the UK. For example, we don't know exactly how long the war in Ukraine will last. Most likely this will continue to cause financial difficulties not just for the UK, but for most of Europe while it lasts. This is because prior to the war, Russia was supplying about 30% of Europe's oil and 39% of its natural gas. So now that many nations in Europe have put sanctions on Russia and refused to buy its oil and natural gas, they have to get energy from other places, many of which are more expensive. But what does it mean if the pound continues to lose strength relative to the dollar? Now that the Great British pound has lost significant strength against the US dollar, many people are wondering what exactly this will mean for the people of the UK and for the global economy. Well, for one thing, it means that the prices for goods and services imported into the UK will cost more. This is because when a currency is weaker, companies typically charge more because the currency is seen as less valuable. So, if the pound continues to weaken, British citizens can expect to pay more for imports. Travel will also become more expensive for UK residents abroad, especially in nations that they have a high level of dollar usage. Essentially, if the Great British pound continues to lose value relative to other currencies such as the US dollar, its purchasing power will dwindle, resulting in decreasing spending power for people who hold and use Great British pounds. Well, we have reached the end of this video, guys, and as promised, I'm going to reveal one important piece of information about the situation in which the Great British pound plummeting to record lows, and here it is. The pound is not just losing value relative to the US dollar due to the tax cut plans put forth by new Prime Minister Liz Truss. There is another reason why this is happening. The Federal Reserve Bank in America is fighting inflation harder than the Bank of England. In fact, the Federal Reserve Bank has been raising interest rates more than the Bank of England. And as a result, the inflation rate in England is currently around 9.9%, which is significantly higher than this of the United States. In the United States, the inflation rate is currently around 8.3%. So if inflation rates in the UK continue to remain significantly higher than inflation rates in the United States, then this too could cause the pound sterling to lose more relative to the United States dollar. So be aware of this, guys. That's it for today's video. I hope that you guys found this video informative and that you have a better understanding of the situation with the Great British pound losing value against the United States dollar. And as a reminder, don't forget to join my free tax training webinar by clicking on the link below. If you're somebody that is interested in learning a little bit more about taxes and how you can use the federal tax system to your advantage, feel free to comment and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you so much.